am Basetsana Khasi. My student number is 25278569. We are doing option 4, the talk show, and I will be the host.
Hi, my name is Nurrazin Bebe and my student number is U2555002. I am co-host and also guest teacher.
Greetings, my name is Letupo Longoso and my student number is 255-25922. I am the co-host and educational psychologist.
Good day, brilliant minds and curious humans. Welcome to the Next Gen Talk, the talk show where mind meets chaos, learning meets classroom, and learning gets real. I am the talk show host, Basetsana Khasi, and thank you for tuning in. Before we dive into today's topic, make sure you check out our social media platforms. We're on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, you name it. Make sure to drop in your comments so you can join in the discussion. After all, we want to hear what you think. As you guys can see, I have two amazing people next to me. So let's find out who they are. Please introduce yourself.
Good day, viewers. I am Dr. Ngosi, an educational psychologist and the co-host.
Good day, viewers. I'm Miss Bebe, a teacher and a co-host for the show.
And today we're going to focus on educational psychology and the key debates that surround this topic. We're going to cover key debates such as nature versus nurture, continuity versus discontinuity, active versus passive learning, universal, and the cultural context. Now, before we get into this topic, it is important to understand what is educational psychology. Educational psychology is an understanding of how kids learn, how they perform the different learning techniques, and how we can make the teaching method more effective. Firstly, we're going to discuss nature versus nurture. Now, this has been an ongoing topic and a debate for so many years. With nature, it refers to the genetic stuff, such as maybe the child's hormones or maybe the way their brain is wired. Usually, these kids inherit certain personality traits from their parents or behavioral traits from the other parents. For example, I inherited my father's smile. And then when it comes to nurture, it refers to the social economic issues or things that are going on around the child. This could be the parenting style or the classroom which they're in, or maybe the poverty, if there's poverty, or where they grew up, or the country in where they grew up in general. For example, I know two amazing kids, and they're so incredibly talented in drawing. Give them a paper and a crayon, and boom, you have yourself two mini Picassos. But one started exercising more and actually practicing drawing every day, and I could see that this child actually improved more than the other. That's another example. So the fact that they're actually talented is nature, but then as one started practicing more, you can see where nurture comes into place. Now I can see that we have a few comments here, and we have someone saying, stop blaming genetics for everything. Some of us work hard to raise our kids, okay? Ooh, so basically what she says is, some parents are parenting while others are, well, hoping for the best. And we have another one who's saying, I was born smart, school didn't teach me anything. And there's another one who's saying, no, I'm for nurture. My son only passed math after I paid for a tutor, so definitely nurture. As you can see, this is an ongoing topic, and it is also interesting to see that there are certain factors such as politics and religion that play a role into this debate, and hence making it so recurring. Another example, we can have a child who has musical talent from the get-go, but because maybe they do not have certain musical instruments at home, that talent may never be able to bloom. So you see where it comes in, where they're just naturally talented, which comes nature, but then they're unable to nurture that talent because they do not have the certain resources to do so. So guys, as you can see, there's a lot going on, but my takeaway is both cannot really be separated. We need nature and nurture, and they both coexist. And with a combination of both, you can get yourself an amazing, talented child who's developing in an excellent manner. And this is actually strangely similar to our next debate, active versus passive learning. Now, madam, could you please give us more information on that?
Passive and active involvement is all about the fact that the development of children mainly influenced by their environment, or do they also play an active role? Now, research has shown that the way that the emotional, cognitive interpretation and processing that children have towards their experiences greatly impacts their development. Now, the main concern is that to what extent are children able to shape their own development? Can they change certain beliefs? Well, my opinion is that it really depends on the age of the child. So, for example, a 3-year-old child compared to a 7-year-old child may shape their development differently because they are both in different stages of cognitive development. And also, we cannot only just say it's only the children who are able to influence their development, but also passively their environment and the parenting styles that they are exposed to can also greatly influence how they view and interpret experiences.
Wow, that is actually so good because I can see that we have some form of comment here. There's someone who commented, some kids need instructions, not freedom. And you have someone else who says, I gave my son chores and suddenly he became responsible. Active learning works. So as you can see, I want to ask a question and find out more. Does the brain develop through active exploration or is it shaped by parenting and schooling?
I feel like it can be influenced by different aspects, and it also depends on in which environment is the child mostly exposed to. For example, if they're homeschooling, then it will be mainly influenced by their parents and their environment. But if they always go to school, they then have the chance to be independent and think for themselves and explore different things.
Wow, that is actually so interesting. Now, to balance this out, let's hop into the next debate. Continuity versus discontinuity. I have an amazing educational psychologist who's an expert in this debate. Now, doctor, please, do fill us in.
Okay, so when we're talking about continuity versus discontinuity, what we're really asking is, does learning happen gradually or in stages? So from a continuous point of view, learning is seen as a slow and steady process. Take it like climbing a hill. Learners keep improving bit by bit, building on what they already know. For example, a learner does not learn how to read overnight. They have to improve their learning or reading skills by practicing and the support they get. With this continuity, we see that learning happens in stages or steps. It's not always smooth. So for instance, a learner was struggling with math for a while and then suddenly they get it in just a day, which shows that it's a shift from one stage of thinking to another. Psychologists like Paget talk about this kind of development. So as an educational psychologist, I believe that both views are important because continuous reminds us that we should support learners consistently, and discontinuous reminds us that learning, or there are different stages of learning, and growth comes suddenly.
Wow, that is amazing, so interesting. I told you guys, she's an expert. She knows it all. Now we have a few comments coming in for you based on what you have said. And one has said, teachers must be patient. Kids don't all learn at the same time. Wow, and I think this truly resonates with you being an educator, right? Definitely. And we also have the next comment that says, lie. My daughter struggled with reading for years and suddenly, boom, she got it. Well, with this comment, I think it refers to discontinuity as she had said, right? So just to clear any confusion, there's both sides. There's discontinuity and continuity. And the last comment is, puberty messed up my kid. One day she's sweet, next it's Wild War 3. Wow, and now we also have a question for you, doctor. And it says, do teenagers really experience a sudden identity crisis, like Erickson says, or is development gradual?
So Erickson believes that it's a continuous change where teenagers question who they are and where they belong. But from a continuous view, identity develops slowly from experience, or I can say through experience and relationships. So in reality, I can say that it's a mix of both.
You guys, you heard the answer from an expert herself. Next debate, the next key debate is universal versus cultural, right? And we have this amazing educator who's traveled the world, so she practically knows the universe. What do you have to say about this topic, ma'am?
Well, the main concern about this debate is that do all children have the similar development pattern or other cultural lines? Well, I feel like there are cultural lines because cultures are so diverse. Because when we look at the culture, we look at the norms, the customs, the ways of living that have been passed from one generation to another and can greatly influence the development of a child. For example, in Western cultures where people praise individuality and being independent and thinking for yourself, children from the Western side of life may be more selfish about their life in a good way. They may think for themselves and grow to be very independent, whereas children from the African culture where we prioritize the group of the people we live around. It's not just about you, we consider others. We don't just do and make decisions for yourself, but also consider others. So yeah, I feel like there are cultural lines. Development is not linear all over the world. Yes.
Well, I think that's very interesting because I can see we have a Chinese commenter who said that kids in China are meant to be very professional in terms of their schoolwork. They follow a certain study timetable and that helps them excel academically. That's where the cultural aspect comes in, where they do certain things in a certain way and that helps the kid develop, right? And we also have a comment here and it says, children are the same everywhere. Culture doesn't change science. That's actually an interesting take on that. We also have another comment that says, no, culture shapes how children grow. Try teaching in rural KZN versus Santon and you will see. Wow guys, and that's where the context of where you're born, nurture, comes in. But anyways, we're done with that topic. And now we have a parent here who needs advice. And the parents are saying, need advice. My child struggles at school because we study, because we speak, is it closer at home? Should we switch to English? And my take on this is that a multilingual kid is a win at life. So support both languages. So with that being said, this is the ending of our show, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure